I'll give people a few seconds. But yeah, I've got a solar battery pack that's waterproof
Mhm.
that I keep charged up just in the hatch. And like if I get like halfway through that second set, like that second battery comes out of the second set of six, I'm like,
Yeah.
and I go plug in the first one. It takes like I don't know an hour, and all three of them, hour and a half, all three of them are ready.
Now you're on the Titan X right now, right?
Yeah, just switched.
How you liking that?
I love that thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. So, all right. So, I loved my PWR.
Mhm.
Um, and the funny part is, so nobody's on yet that I can see, but I'm going to say it now because Noah made me swear under almost under threat that I would. So, the way that you and I met, I'm with the Bearded Paddler, by the way, guys. The way that you and I met was you helped me get out of a sticky situation between a kayak brand and a dealer. And
Yeah.
that's how I ended up in the PWR 129. But
You can say
Noah,
the kayak brand.
yeah, it was Hobie. I mean, I think
There you
everybody
go.
knows at this point. The dealer doesn't matter so much anymore.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
old. That's old hat. But Hobie was the problem. But we met because Noah hooked us up.
yeah. Mhm.
And last Tuesday, when I got off the last podcast, I was talking to the group and I said, "Well, I'm with Andy next week, Bearded Paddler." And Noah was like, "Make sure you mention on the podcast that you met him because of Noah Witten. And if you don't, I'm going to kick your ass when I get to Mark Twain Lake," or some version of that. And I was like, yeah, 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 you'll get your credit. But I love the PWR 129. I still love my RVR 119. That
Yeah.
thing's probably my favorite kayak ever. But the Titan, man, it's the Titan X is just different. I did not realize how I knew it was big. I knew it was going to be heavier, but I didn't demo one. I was just like, I'm doing it, and I bought it.
Right.
I did not realize how big and how heavy it was. Not that that's a negative, but my God, when the guy from U Ship opened the enclosed trailer and I saw it, I thought it was going to be an XTR for a second because it was all wrapped up. So like I saw it and I kind of looked for like the other kayak on the trailer, and ooh, and so he's like, no, 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 just the one. And I was like, oh my God, that's the Titan. I said, dude, will you? I had the workbench set up, the kayak bench. And I
Yeah.
said, will you help me lift it up on there? I said, because once you're gone, I don't think I'm getting it up there.
Mhm.
And so we horsed it up there. And when the cloth came off, it was just like unbelievable the presence that thing has.
Yeah.
The PWR is not a small kayak,
No,
but
no,
it
it's not.
seems small when you stand. It really is a Titan. It's such a fitting name.
Yeah.
But I've been out on that thing five or six times now, and I love it. I would never go back.
I was remarkably impressed with that kayak. So we got, if I remember correctly, I think the owners had done the like the factory tour, and they came back with them. So we were actually the first dealer to have them on the floor, which
Oh,
is
no
great
kidding.
for me because I'm doing content. And yeah, I was like, okay, give me one of them. Well, we ended up getting like I think six of every color or something.
Oh, wow.
So but we got it before, so it comes on a big 18 wheeler. It's literally packed like sardines in there. And
Hmm.
the first ones to come out were the Titans. So I was like, all right, and we were just guessing. There was no official weight from Big Adventures or, from
Hmm.
Native on the weight. So we didn't know. And so like I'm standing, we got a guy up in the in the trailer and he's handing them down and sliding them down. I took that first kayak right in the chest and
Did it knock you down?
oh no, it didn't knock me down, but it made me hum for a little bit, like huh, because you're trying to catch your breath, and I'm like, holy crap, because we I was guessing about 140 to 150. It was 175, I believe, fully rigged. So
Hmm.
the kayak ships with the kayak and the seat hardware and all that, and then the drive comes in a separate box. So
Yep.
the only thing I wasn't catching on my chest was the drive. Everything
Which,
else,
which is probably solid 30 pounds if I had to guess. That thing
oh
is
man, yeah.
beefy.
And
It's like a cast iron skillet.
yes, that's a perfect way to describe it too.
Uh huh.
That and to me, the native drive, and I'm not partial to them by any means. Like we sold at the location I worked at, we sold Old Town, so that's everyone's favorite pedal drive to talk about, and it's probably the most popular and definitely one of the most durable. But to me, the native drive, it's a machine grade aluminum. You
Hmm.
take it apart. I've worked on them. I've greased them up. It's so simple on the interior, but it's all metal parts. There's no plastic on that thing. And
Yep, just the
that,
prop.
yeah, that for one thing, it's made like a bicycle drive. So, not saying nothing ever happens to them, but they were extremely easy to fix and to maintain and to work on. So, and then you can buy rebuild kits, if something crazy happens to where you get a chip on one of the gears. But yeah, I see a lot of the copycat things out there, and a lot of it is just simply taking the design and the idea or the patent and throwing plastic parts into it. And
Hmm.
to me, it may get you around on the water for a lot less money, but it's not going to have that durability. So
Well, and it might get you out on the water a couple of miles from the ramp and then keep you there.
yeah, and and I'm not saying that you don't always get what you pay for in kayaking. We've seen that with Hobie, of course, but
Hmm.
it. And again, I'm specifically talking about the 360 drive with them, but you know,
Yeah, the 180 drive I had, I never had any issues. The Outback was bulletproof.
I
That
love
Pro
it.
Angler with the 360 drive, oh my god.
Yeah, when I my last week at the shop when I worked there, literally the last thing I had to do was replace a clutch and a belt assembly on a 360 drive. That was a nightmare, and
Oh, it's such a pain to replace that belt.
I know what I'm doing. And it's still just, it absolutely sucked because there's
Yep.
not enough room in there. It'd be great if they made it a little easier to get it, but yeah, it was a pain in the butt. But
Sup, Yak Bass? And their little fix, I can't even remember exactly what it was. I want to say it was like moving a tube. There was something going on where the belt was breaking and there was some little fix inside of there for how it was routed or something like that. And they were like, "Oh, that's the problem." And once that was done, it still didn't fix it. I
yeah,
broke like four belts on that thing in a year.
so it's a little tube and the belt is inside there, but inside it's obviously it's a loop belt, but in the middle you've got a metal. It's like a metal plate, like a
That's what it
thin metal
was.
plate that
Yeah.
goes in the middle. And what it does is, as that belt turns, it grinds that metal, and which
Hmm.
it's still a rubber belt.
Yeah.
So when and I'm not going to say their name, but a really popular influencer that is big on Hobie said when they came out with the XR that they fixed all the problems, and I said, well, that's very irresponsible to do
And
because
a very bold statement.
you don't know that.
Yeah.
And people that get a Hobie every year don't deal with the problems that the average person does that wants to keep it for more than a season. So
Hmm.
it didn't correct the problem. It made it a little better. And it also made it a little easier so that you're not stranded out with a drive that's just spinning around in circles. You can manually change it, but it was kind of a band-aid on an issue. And that was kind of working at a dealer, that was kind of the issue with me is like, okay, we're not fixing the fundamental issue. And we're talking about now it's a $6,000 kayak.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I remember your frustrations, and that's kind of when we were in the middle of our frustrations with it. And yeah, seeing what they're doing now, which you don't know,
Yeah.
um, they're shipping stuff out to dealers. They're prioritizing warranty. I think so far they've done the right thing, not just throwing plastic in molds and getting it to market. Make sure what you're doing is right,
Hmm.
but jury's still out. You know.
I think they're smart enough to realize whether it's long term or not. If you follow them on social media, for example, you can't follow a Hobie page without every single post they make. 95% of the comments are honor my warranty. Why do you suck? Get us parts. Like it's a Hobie bash fest. People that like Hobie are in there trashing them. So they're smart enough to realize they got to be like, all right, we got to pump some replacement parts in. We got to pump in some quality content. We got to get the stuff on the floor with the dealers, and then we got to level all this out. And so what really makes you think is, okay, they're starting out right now, but in 3, 4, 5 years, is all of this been rectified and repaired, or is it just new models coming or the same old, same old? It's pretty sad when you've got this makes me giggle anytime I say it. You've got the brand new XR drive or whatever it is, and it's supposed to fix all your problems and blah blah blah, and it still has problems. There's still issues. Meanwhile, your 180 drive that your patent has expired on is now being ripped off by every cheap Chinese company on the planet.
Yeah,
Their knockoff version of your crap drive is more reliable in their crap kayak than your $6,000 flagship with your new technology. That's pretty sad. You
it is.
clearly have gone the wrong direction.
It's a shame too, because I think the industry is better off with Hobie in a good position. They don't have to be top dog, which they're not
Hmm.
anymore. I don't care if you're a Hobie fanboy or if you hate Hobie. They're not the top anymore.
No,
And
not even close.
there for years and years and years, you had Hobie, and you had everybody else playing for second. Like, and they were okay with that.
Hmm.
But Big Adventures has really, in my opinion, taken over that top spot. And then now you've kind of got Big Adventures and New Canoe kind of, 1A, 1B. And essentially they're
Yeah,
kind of part of the same atmosphere there.
a 100%.
I bought a New Canoe Unlimited Max from my buddy James, who runs Midwest Kayak Company, and the MSO for my New Canoe actually says on the bottom a Big Adventures company. So they're being manufactured in the same place. A lot of the
Hmm.
molding is taken care of the same place. So it'd be interesting to see what the future brings with that. But
I
I
think it
think
ends up under Big Adventures all the way at some point.
yeah. I still think it would be great to see them both operate independently, like Native and Bonafide.
Correct. Yeah.
You
Like a
know,
lot of people don't even know what Big Adventures is.
yeah,
And a lot of people don't realize that Native and Bonafide are sister companies. They're just like somebody told me one day, they're like, one of my comments on some post was like, how could you go to a Native kayak after having the PWR? You loved the PWR. You've always talked good about Bonafide. And now you're just going to bail on them and go to a competitor. And I was like, well,
yeah,
actually, I'm not. Like, it's just still the BA family, man. Like, I love Bonafide. I think it's one of the greatest brands, like you said, if
yeah.
not top dog now.
They make one of the
And
coolest kayaks, I think.
yeah, I had never owned a native before this one. I know a bunch of people that have this one. Um, Andrew Blair Fishing may or may not have been making Photoshop pictures of me in a Titan X, like swapping out photos with my PWR for a Titan X and being like, "Doesn't it look great?"
Yeah,
But like you said, it's I think you said it in a poster or video that like nobody wants Hobie to fail. If Hobie fails, we all fail.
yeah,
Like the industry fails if one of the Titans falls.
yeah, yeah. And and fail may be a strong word for that, but you know, what it does is it decreases consumer confidence. So,
Hmm.
you know, there's no shortage of expensive fishing kayaks, but there's also no shortage of cheap kayaks either. So I also see a lot of people posting, it's a rich man's sport, or it's really not.
It makes me roll my eyes, man.
Yeah, and when someone says that, yes, the stuff that I'm talking about that a lot of people watch more is about an expensive kayak, but the thing that I do is I'm simply saying, okay, this is what you get with this money.
Hmm.
I'm not saying like, hey, anybody can afford this. That's not true, and I know that. So,
You can make it as expensive as you want to. You can go get
exactly.
on the water for $200, $300 kayak with a fishing pole, or you can run around in a $20,000 XTR.
Yeah. And to me, overpriced is something, it's just it's a price in the absence of value. That's the definition of overpriced to me. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's $3,500 or $4,000, but what do you get? So not everybody needs $4,000 worth of features and accessories. Some people are okay with that, but
Speaking of the devil.
AB fishing.
I uh I have a tendency, and it may be wrong. You're probably the best person to echo off of. I have a tendency to call the Garmin Force overpriced, but I think it's because Man, when that motor came out and you see the price tag, it's like
Yeah,
4 grand if you want its
the
full
full PWR.
capabilities. It just, man, it just seems like bass boat money. It just seems like pricing. It's going the glitter rocket direction. Where next thing you know, the more people price stuff like that and people buy it,
Yeah.
the higher it goes. Next thing you know, a kayak like the Titan, for example, we'll just use that one, could be a $10,000 kayak on a showroom floor.
Oh,
Just like a
easy.
bass boat is a six-figure thing on a showroom floor, and they didn't start out that way.
No,
They got there
no.
because people they kept raising it, people kept paying it, and man, that Garmin Force bugs me.
Well, I got to see one for the first time when
That's what I tell my wife at least.
I saw the Garmin Force when I went to James's shop to pick up the kayak, and then he did, and it was ironically it was a PWR build he was doing,
Oh, that's gonna
and
move.
he had all kinds of stuff. He had a big graph, he had live scope on it, he had the Garmin Force with the 2 foot pedals on it to where
Yep.
you can just hit the edge of it and you got spot lock. I was very interested in the concept of stern mount motor, but spot lock
Hmm.
because I'm a stern mount guy. I love and I kind of miss parts of the bow mount spot lock, but I don't miss having something in, just in my way. I like clear open space cast. I don't like a every now and then you get a fish kind of roll up on that motor and it.
Hmm.
But yeah, looking at it, it was pretty neat. So you got that big head unit on the back, but your motor turns independently from it. So it's not like you
Uh-huh.
got this big thing just swaying back and forth. My personal kayak, I've still got the NK 300 on it, so that thing, I'll run that till the wheels fall off. I dig it, and my spot lock right now is just me dropping an anchor. So most of my fishing's done in 10 to 15 foot of water or less anyway. That NK
Yeah.
300 just gets me to my
I want the
area.
NK 300 just because I see Andrew Blair doing over 6 miles an hour on his Titan.
Yeah,
And I've got the 180 because I already had it for the RVR and the PWR. So I've got the
yeah.
180 on the back and I've got the XI3 on the front. So I just run. I'm like a bass boater myself. I run to the spot and then I turn the spot lock on. But I was out on the lake the other day and I had both of them fired up, maxed out, and I was doing like just under 6 miles an hour. And I was like, I
So
wonder how long I can keep this up.
biologist Tina brings up a good point there. I do have an understanding wife, and yeah, making poor financial decisions is definitely in my wheelhouse. So we went to Midwest Kayak Company to pick up the U10 that New Canoe sent for us to do
Hmm.
season 2 of Take Me to the River, and then he had that Unlimited Max there and that Hazard Orange, and I'd been talking to him for a while about that because that was the color that I would want in that kayak should I go with it. And the only reason that I have a PWR, and the only reason I was even looking at it was I have the New Canoe EPS system. So, the motor mount with the foot control for the U10, and it literally would go on the UMAX. So I was telling her, I was like, how great would that be to, yeah, run an NK 300 with foot control and run it tandem? That's another thing. New Canoe is going to send us the cable for the solo and the tandem setup to run the UMAX with the NK 300 on it.
Oh, that's a
And
good selling point for you guys.
yeah, we're going to do a tandem. Well, it was my idea. I'm just dragging her along with me. So maybe do some funny content and also show people how you can run a tandem with a motor, and that, big kayaks and motors are not for your professional fishermen anymore. Your weekend warriors are now putting motors on boats and putting graphs on boats, and it because that, like you said, the Garmin Force, the price of it. I remember the Power Pole Move. That motor was like $5,000 just for the motor, and people thought that was the most ridiculous thing. Now you're getting people asking about it, and they're wanting to order it now. So I think everything comes out, and then there's that initial shock, and
Hmm.
then after a while, people say like, that would be pretty nice.
I might have
And
been too harsh on Garmin then because I honestly thought that was the highest priced one yet.
oh, that Power Pole one was it's up there. It's a bow mount motor that's extremely strong, so it's probably the fastest bow mount. I think the biggest problem in the industry right now is the lack of bow mount options. So when Motor Guide went out, Minn Kota kind of come in with the Tarova as just kind of a, a plug, but
Hmm.
really there's not really a lot of good options out there. And you got a lot of these kayaks that are kind of made with that in mind. You can still do the stern mount options, but yeah, we need some more players in that field there. And I see a lot of white label stuff, like the foreign made knockoffs.
You mean like
And,
the Yak Attack motor?
yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say this: Yak Attack didn't hide from it. I had more of a problem with the whole Nakwa
Oh my
situation
God, yeah, that's
with
that's a
Yak
whole
Attack.
nother story.
'Cause to me, that was more of a shady practice. But honestly, they had the president of the company that made the motors at events with them talking about the motor. So it wasn't like Yak Attack was saying, look at what we just created here. It was just, hey, you know, those of you that have, Hobie kayak for right now, you can, this is a good option for you. So I don't have a problem
Hmm.
with that part of it. But yeah, you're starting to see more of their products made in China. And even the cushion that they came out with, the seat cushion, it's made in China, and I was kind of surprised by that because that's a company that
Hmm.
really kind of prided and really sold themselves publicly as being we're American made and American manufactured, and now it's kind of different. And this was at a time when the tariffs were there's a lot of uneasy feelings with
Hmm.
what things are going to cost moving forward, and yeah, they're going to have to rethink some of those strategies, and yeah, it's I don't know. I haven't
But
seen about the whole Nakwa thing. I haven't seen Yak Attack's product actually come out without Nakwa on it. So I'll kind of reserve my inflammatory video on that until that happens. But yeah, I heard that. I'm like, that is not. And I actually
well,
had people reach out to me that represented both Yak Attack and Nakwa at some point or simultaneously. None of them were okay with it. And so that's I didn't want to just get emotional about something and just put a video out. Wanted to kind of sit back and take some time on it. And yeah, it really ruffled some feathers in the community, that's for sure.
Yak Bass had a good comment, so I'm going to throw it up real quick while I make a point, though. So Yak Attack, so for me, because I wasn't at any of the shows or anything, so like
Yeah.
outside looking in, they did three things all at the same time. So
Mhm.
like they posted about that motor, and in none of the social media stuff did it say, "Hey, look, here's a motor we collaborated with, whatever." It was basically like, "Hey, look at this new motor we came
Yeah.
up with," and then you got people calling on them immediately, like, "Hey, that's on Alibaba for this." And then they're like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
that's
check
true though.
check out our new Anchor product, which is a ripoff of an Anchor Wizard." And then in like the same day, week, whatever, they're like, "Oh, hey, by the way, Nakwa posts," and they're like, "Hey, so we're apparently not going to be working with Yak Attack anymore." Like, however he said it was very diplomatic. And then, bam, here's our battery, and you're like, "Oh, cool. So you stole Nakwa's thing and took their name off of it. Cool." So it's
I
like bing, bang,
shared
boom.
Yeah, I shared Nakwa's video on my socials because he was pretty shocked by it. And it was it was the president of Nakwa, and he was saying like, they didn't find out until they were at a show. They were Nakwa was at ICAST. I think it was unveiling their strip lights, their navigation lights
Hmm.
and all this. And they went by the Yak Attack booth, and then that was when they found out apparently that Yak Attack was going to drop the Nakwa name off their power pack and then sell it as a Yak Attack only product.
Hmm.
So it's basically like, hey, we're going to collab. It's like if me and you were collaborating on a video series, and then all of a sudden, you design, you edit, you do all this work, and then I'm just like, okay, well, Steve's not going to be part of this video series anymore, and then I just carry on with what you created as all me. And to me,
Yeah.
it's intellectual property. There's a lot of things, and I'm sure that collaboration there's nothing in there where there's legal ramifications, but it's just there's right and wrong. And I feel like the kayak community, especially those of us that spend an obscene amount of money with companies like Yak Attack and you know
Hmm.
Native, New Canoe, and all these companies. Yeah, I mean that's one of the main reasons where I don't like to be sponsored is if one of these companies screws up like that, I don't want to be associated with that. So
Yeah, I don't even have anything Yak Attack on my kayak anymore. And I mean, I was all about the Yak Attack thing. I started kayak fishing 32 years ago. I think we figured out it was. I lose it every year. I can't remember if it's 31, 32, 33. But it's been a long time. So when I started kayaking and fishing out of a kayak, there was no Yak Attack. There
Yeah.
was guys that most of us didn't even know other people were doing it. I didn't. I was just a kid. But we were making our own rod holders out of PVC.
Yeah.
We were coming up with storage options like milk crates. Yak Attack was literally born out of watching what everyone else was doing and then saying, you know what, you don't have to do that for yourself anymore.
Yeah.
We're going to do it off the shelf. We're not going to charge you a crap ton of money, and it's all made in America, and it's great. And so Yak Attack became there was DIY, and then there was DIY you didn't have to do, and that was
Yeah.
Yak Attack. And I mean, they exploded, and that was great. And I was always like a champion of their stuff. And the first change I made was to the source crate, which didn't have anything to do with, oh, I don't like Yak Attack or, oh, I don't like the black
Yeah.
pack. I broke the black pack a couple times, a couple different black packs where like the screws would pull, whatever. And I wanted a metal crate. So I went to source crate. And that was like the first domino. And then it was like slowly there wasn't Yak Attack stuff on my kayak anymore. And then after all that stuff with Nakwa and everything else, I just pulled it all off. Because when you see them claim to use a claim to create a motor or whatever, however you interpret it, and it's a Chinese one, you're like, well, that's pretty lame. And then you see them with the Anchor Wizard, and you're like, yeah, that's also kind of lame. But there's a lot of different Anchor kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when the Nakwa thing happened, you could tell in the video that he was shocked. But the
Yeah.
other thing that I took away from that video is he just genuinely looked hurt. There was
Yeah.
like a tone of hurt and betrayal and like not a video that he thought he was going to make. So it's almost like going on tour in a band. And then when you get off the plane, there's another bass player standing there and they're like, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
Pete Best or whatever his name was, like, oh, by the way, you're not in the band
Yeah.
anymore. And then you're flying home and you're just like, what the hell just happened?
The thing that killed me about the whole situation, and again, I admittedly don't know the whole story. I had contacted the guy from Nakwa, and I had bought some product, and that's important to point out to everybody is the power banks that I got. I bought them because I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to use these. I'm going to support them, and I love the product, by the way. And they sent me an extra one because I wanted to do a giveaway because I wanted to kind of shed some light on Nakwa and not just throw more stuff to Yak Attack. But the thing that killed me about the whole thing was Yak Attack didn't need to do that.
No.
Like, it's not like it was an innovative product at the time because a lot of people were putting batteries in Tupperware containers. They were doing all kinds of stuff to make it waterproof.
Mhm.
Aqua simply made a design that is waterproof, and you don't have to. It's going to power your gear. It's going to power your fish finders, your outdoor cameras, what have you. But
It was genius. It was like, here's a waterproof baseball, and by the way, it's going to run your stuff all day.
yeah, and they could have easily Yak Attack could have easily just changed some stuff about it. They literally just were going to take the Nakwa name off the packaging. That's it.
Hmm.
And no longer partner with, so like why not just make your own battery? It's been around for long enough now. It's not like it's not the innovative product that it used to be. It's just a
Yeah.
solid product. And Yak Attack could have easily said, hey, let's make it more compact, or let's make it, where it attaches to kayak in different ways, or they could have done so much more stuff. To me, it felt lazy, a lot like the
Hmm.
motor did and a lot like the Anchor Wizard did. And to me, even the kayak cushion, I reviewed it.
Yeah.
Again, there's probably people that prefer it over a kayak cushion, but to me, the kayak cushion is kind of where it's at. The video I did comparing the two, I took the covers off of them. We compared the padding, everything, and yeah, just like it felt lazy. It felt like low hanging fruit to get more products out there, and
Yak
hope,
Attack got me twice that way because when they came out with the cushion, I was like,
yeah,
oh, I gotta have that. That looks so great. And then I tried it and I didn't like it as much as the kayak cushion. And same thing with the leaderboard. When that thing came out,
yeah,
oh, I gotta have that because it's just bigger and that's gonna be great. And I used it for I don't know, a couple months, and I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
Like, I'm like, why move away from catch?
yeah,
Like, Duke has this great product, same thing with Brandon, right?
yeah,
Kayak Cushion. Okay. Like two great products, small American business, whatever. It's like why am I entertaining this other, like I have stuff I'm happy with. Why am I entertaining it? And then so I went back to the catch board. I never got rid of it. I went back to the Kayak Cushion, never got rid of that. And it's like then all the other stuff happened and I was just like, man, Yak Attack may have jumped the shark.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, they're it's not that I think they're a bad company. I think they had some missteps there, and I think they really got called out on it, and um, that really restored my faith in the kayak community. Is the amount of people that called them out for that,
That's
and
a really good point.
they could, if they correct course and ride it, which they could definitely do. I definitely don't consider Yak Attack the evil empire, but they definitely
Mhm.
made some questionable decisions. I'll put it that way. Yeah, I mean, get into some research and development, make some products. Don't make a measuring board that floats and then just base all of your marketing on the fact that it floats. I was the same way. I almost bought the leaderboard, and I'm like, we between me and Christine, I think we had like three different catch boards, and it was the old carbonate boards, and I'm like, there's nowhere to put it on our current kayak, and they hadn't come out with the leaderboard holders yet. I'm like, I'll hold off on that. And then now here recently, Catch actually lowered their price on their standard carbonate boards. So
Yeah, which was pretty cool.
Duke has got, again, I'm an affiliate of Catch, and proudly so. But everything they've sent me or I've bought from them is absolutely just precision made. Like the PWR parts that they made. I've my stern
Hmm.
mount plate is from Catch, and everything lines up perfectly. Everything is just, and let's be honest. I mean, when we're talking about kayaks, we're not talking about like, strict tolerances. They can vary a little bit sometimes, but yeah, I say, and they just make some cool stuff too. I mean, they make some things that can be cosmetic, but they make some really good stuff that makes things a lot easier, especially when you're talking about with Bonafide. I think the most underused mount is that the little dimpled single mount, right beside the seats, and a lot of people
Oh
don't
yeah.
know what that is. And it's for a quarter 20 stud to go in there. Well, they made the stubby, which
Yep.
is just it's an aluminum track, a little square track, a lot like Yak Attack's Mighty Mount, and it fits in there. And there's a little puck that locks it in to that little spot. So it gives you another permanent mount there that just it doesn't wobble, and it's a good place for a camera mount, and it's an excellent place for like your throttle mount and stuff. So
Yep. Something they did, Duke just announced it's coming. Oh, probably like a week ago. And I was like, this right here, this is why I love Catch. They came out with the conservation carbonate board
yeah,
where it's got all the fine measurements for the scientific measurements and stuff like that. And it was great because in his post, he was like, listen, don't start buying these up to go fish in your tournament. Your TD's head's going to explode. It's like that's not what this is for. But it's just, you know, ki- fishing in general, not even kayak fishing. I won't pigeonhole
yeah,
it that way. Fishing in general tends to consume so much of the resource without a lot of thought of giving back to it. And people would argue, like, bass gives back in like their biology and stuff, but I mean, at the same time, we're also still throwing them in a boat and driving them around. But I
yeah,
digress. But Catch is literally giving a product that helps not just conservation departments, but people who like to support the conservation departments and help with those studies and things like that. This fine tuned, dead accurate board with the measurements that conservation and scientists and stuff need.
yeah,
And it's like Duke thought of that. I wouldn't have thought of that.
yeah,
Never occurred to me that that was something the world needed. And then here he comes. And he's like, "Hey, we're going to do this. Don't buy it for your tournaments."
yeah.
And I was
And
like,
they're
"You know what? I'm going to buy one."
yeah, they're still the gold standard too. So I mean, again, nothing wrong with the leaderboard. We all know the horror stories about the hog troughs. People, because
Oh
they were
yeah,
flexible, so people would push them down, get that extra inch out of the fish. And yeah, I mean, they're still the standard. So
Yeah.
regardless of if they float or not, that's just kind of irrelevant to me. I got the
Yeah, it's so irrelevant. And
yeah
you and
I,
I are two people who fish skinny, sketchy water.
yeah, and I'm
We don't care. It doesn't float.
I'm clumsy, so I actually ordered one of the. They have a little tether cord, and
Yep.
it's paracord. You can order them different colors and stuff. Well, I said, well, I'm going to get one of those just because, like, I bought my custom catch board, so like that's not a small investment. So I put that tether cord on it, and the season finale of Take Me to the River, where I did the overnight trip, I actually dumped. I didn't get it on film, unfortunately, but I actually dumped my catch board over the side, and my heart skipped a beat a little bit. But that I had it. I had the cord tethered to the seat, and it just caught up. Like, oh, thank God, because I for a minute I forgot that I had that on there
Oh,
because
yeah.
I rarely did. That was the first time I'd actually used it, and it's just one of them little things where the bottom of the boat hit on a shoal when I was going through there, and then the current kind of tipped the boat over. I didn't tip the boat over, but it threw me out.
Yeah.
It was kind of like coming to a complete stop, and then it just threw me off the side of it, and it's and then I just saw my catch board just kind of going along the current attached to that cord. I'm like, thank God I bought that thing.
The only catchboard I ever tethered was my OG because it was they're just so heavy. It's not
Yeah,
even anything against the board. It's just that thing. I could anchor my RVR with that. I think.
yeah,
Like I'm pretty sure I could hook it up, toss it out, and keep myself in place. But I got the OG because I wanted a purple one, and he can
okay,
only run like an X in purple, like once a year, like whenever the anodizer can do it. Is basically what it comes down to.
yeah,
And so he was like, "Hey, but I'm going to have these purple OGs coming up in a couple of days here." And so as soon as he posted them, I grabbed one just because I wanted a purple one, and it hangs out in the shop. It just looks cool.
yeah, yeah.
I use my gunmetal Catch X more than anything, but
I almost
I
went
need
with
to
the
get a
gunmetal.
custom one too.
I almost went with the gunmetal. It was gunmetal. I ended up going blue, and then Christina got the red one. And a buddy of mine here locally bought the Bearded Paddler custom one in the emerald green, which I thought looked really sharp. That was another one I was considering, but I, I've got gunmetal everything, so I just
Me
figured it would
too.
match everything. So, but yeah, that they've got some really neat stuff there. Ironically, he was the same guy that bought the kayak that I used last year on that series as well. So thought that was really cool. And we was able to donate that money, of course, to Rivers of Recovery. That's a local, very similar to like a Heroes on the Water type thing, where
Hmm.
they do guided fishing trips here locally for veterans that are struggling. And just thought that whole series. First of all, it was a blast to do. Filming and editing is not my favorite thing to do in the world, so that definitely kind of
Same.
added some work to it. But yeah, just going through that footage and just putting it together and doing a little bit of that, Marty Stauffer Wild American narration to it. It was just something I was wanting to do something different, instead of just talking face stuff and talking about kayaks, which I love to do and I'm still going to do, obviously, but doing something a little bit more cinematic and scenic and something that just kind of showcases the love that we have for these Ozark rivers is just really. I'm looking forward to doing it for another season here, of course, and then we're looking at expanding our scope out a little bit. We're not just doing the Ozarks, but doing
Hmm.
rivers of other areas. There's
That
a
whole
lot of people out there that I got a guy in Tennessee, Tyler with Southern Flow, Tennessee. He's wanting us to get out there, and anytime somebody says they've got monster smallmouth in a stream, that's
count me
probably
in.
gonna get me out of there, get me out there somehow. So we'll make it work. We'll find out a way to do it. So
I That whole series became like a work of art.
I loved it. Yeah,
Because I love my Titan X. I love my two motors. The reason I love my RVR as much as I do, and I haven't even used the RVR truly the way it's intended to
yeah,
yet. I mean, I grew up doing two types of fishing in a kayak. I was either out on the ocean in my like 10-foot Sun Dolphin I had no business being out in the ocean on,
yeah,
or I was on like the Susky or the Delaware Water Gap, where like we would leave and go paddle down river, find a shore, gravel bar, whatever, camp for the night, get up, float down, and we would just disappear for these multi-day camping trips. And it's some of the greatest memories of my life. And man, I haven't, Kira's 14 and I have not done it that I can recall in the time that she's been alive. And I'm starting to reach that age where it's like if I don't start doing that stuff again, I'm all those memories are going to become just that. Like there's
Yeah.
not going to be anything new. And so when I look every time I look at the RVR, I'm just like it needs a little bit of camping gear, a little bit of fishing gear, and it needs to go get lost.
Yeah.
And I have not floated 98% of the rivers this state has. So when I see you out on what was that the Buffalo was the first one, right?
Yeah.
So like that
The Buffalo was the last one.
glass. Okay. What
We
was that
did
first one?
first one was the Upper Jacks Fork River.
That's right, Jack's Fort.
Yeah, I did that with James at Midwest Kayak. We did the Upper Jacks Fork. We what they call the prongs.
Hmm.
He was telling me about that part of the river, and he was saying, we they actually had enough water to float that part because it gets kind of low. Now he was telling me about he lured me with the talk of trophy smallmouth, which we didn't catch a lot of that. And I've got so much fishing video footage that I don't use for that series because my intention was not to turn it into a fishing series, just more of
Right.
a kayak series. But just know that I'm going to take a 6 or 8 hour float. I'm going to turn it into about 12 to 14 because I fish enough to where my fishing buddies get sick of fishing with me. So I and I've got one friend here locally that is the exact same as me, that exact same mentality. When we get together, my wife doesn't even like to go with me because we did one trip. It was a middle section of the Buffalo. It was about a 6 7 hour float. Not a long float. We
Hmm.
were out for 13 hours. We you know
That's the
we
way
had
to do it.
Yeah, we ended up getting to the launch where it was too dark to see, and there's no cell phone reception there. So Christina thought I was going to get back at about 8 p.m. because I told her
Oh
that.
no.
And when I got back in the cell phone range, it was about 11:30, almost midnight. Yeah, and I'm just like, she's not an overreactor by any means. She just generally lets me do what I want. But I'm sitting there thinking of like, okay, I would be worried. Like, if you were expecting me back at 8 p.m. and then it's 11 p.m. and I'm not saying, but man, we fished the launch 2 hours.
That's
And the
awesome.
and the worst thing that can happen is if we catch a fish when we launch, that means we're going to stay there for quite a while.
Oh, correct.
And
One that
even that first trip on Jack's Fort, James was with me, and he must have told me like 6 or 7 times, like, "Hey, Andy, I got to get back. Like, we got to get going." I'm like, I was like, "Thank you," because I was genuinely thankful he was doing that because like I just get in the zone. I just get so zoned out where like I'm looking at spots and I'm looking at little inlets and I'm looking at laydowns and I'm thinking, okay, like there's got to be fish in there
Mhm.
because I've pulled so many enormous fish out of just the weirdest waters on rivers that I'm just always chasing that. So
Well, it's like sometimes you're like, there's not even enough water there for a fish to be in it.
yeah,
And then you throw in there and catch like a 4 pound smallmouth. You're like, what are you doing in there?
yeah.
What are you
My
sunbathing?
my two biggest largemouth bass come out of rivers, and I'm talking about creeks. I'm not talking about like major rivers like the Arkansas River or the Mississippi or the
Hmm.
Susquehanna River. I'm talking about like little creeks and streams that you're walking down, dirt paths to get down to. They come up into some of these creek channels to spawn, and you just don't know. I caught a This sucks. Christina was with me, but I didn't have a phone. I didn't have nothing with me. We just went down there and we're just throwing around and we're catching all these big fish in this little area of this creek. And I'm just using a little Ned rig like this, like a little
Hmm.
craw, and got it weedless because there was a lot of tree stump in there and some down limbs. And I thought I got hung up, and it starts running, and I pulled out a fish like it was huge. and fat. And I'm like, what on earth is this thing? It was a largemouth. What on earth is this thing doing up here in this creek? And didn't take a picture of it. And then me and her went down to Central Arkansas here a couple of years ago, or a few years ago now, and we fished this little walk-in access as a national wildlife reserve called Hollow Bend. And that's the picture you see. Like if you go on like Wendell Fishing's podcast
Uh-huh.
and one of the episodes that I've been on, the thumbnail is me holding up this fish that I caught literally in a foot and a half of water. And it was like 3 feet in front of me. I was reeling it in and it was like, it was kind of murky water. There's a lot of beaver in there. So there's a lot of like sticks and twigs everywhere. And
Yep.
yeah, just hammered that thing right by the bank, and I'm like, holy crap! And then I'm out here on these lakes chasing monsters, and I'm like, okay, I can pull 12 to 15 inches out all day long, but these monsters just live in about foot and a half of water in these creeks is insane to me.
My biggest smallmouth was 4.08 pounds, 20.5 inches. And
Oh,
I caught it this past December. I want to say on like the 27th, so like 2 days after Christmas, in 2 foot of water. And I hadn't caught anything all day except like two little dinks. I had pretty much given up. I was just throwing the spinnerbait to stay warm at that point.
yeah,
And same thing, I thought I was hung up and I set on it out of pure reaction. And then it just started going. And
yeah,
oh, cool. I got a catfish or something on. And I got a look at that bronze color the first time it came up and pulled, and I about came out of the PWR to chase it. I was
yeah,
like, oh my God. I was like, what is that thing doing there?
yeah,
Like that's not and my you hear my buddy in the background, he's just like, holy crap. Like it just came so out of the blue. And like you said, catching dinks all day and just all of a sudden, here's this giant smallmouth where it had no business being. And
that's
same
why.
thing, like you said, I can run around lakes and catch these little ones all
Yeah,
day. My biggest fish consecutively come out of small water. And it always makes me think of Alex Rudd.
yeah,
He had a video where he was fishing creeks with, I want to say it was the cull shad when it first came out.
yeah.
And the
Oh,
dude, the dude catches this big muskie in this like foot deep creek. And he was like, we are miles from the lake. Why are you here?
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's why. And granted, I got into lake fishing because I'd never really done it before. So it started that around what 2019, 2020, around in there. Probably about the same time everybody else jumped in a kayak. It seemed like, but I didn't grow up around lakes. I grew up on the Buffalo River, so that's why I've got such a personal connection to that river. But yeah, I mean, you can go down a stretch of water. You don't have to do the whole thing. There's several access points there. You can catch. That's why I like watching John with Creek Fishing Adventures so much. Is
Yeah,
you've
John
never seen,
Dalton, I think.
yeah, you've never seen somebody take so much pride and joy into catching little fish. But you can go down a stretch of river and catch 5 or 6 different species of fish in varied sizes, and it keeps things exciting. It keeps things fresh, especially if you're wanting to take kids. You
Yeah.
want to take them to where they're going to catch fish. You don't want them because me and you, we know the grind of being on a lake.
Hmm.
Putting in those 6, 8, 12 hour days, like
I'm
to
gonna do it on Saturday.
chase that big fish. But you go down a stretch of river, and I mean, like you lose count on how many fish you're catching. And
Yeah.
top water, it's where you can kind of practice baits that you're not comfortable with. It's where I caught my first top water fish was on a creek, and I mean, all of that stuff just gets me more and more excited, especially with warmer weather on its way.
Hmm.
That smallmouth bite picking up those. We need water more than anything here, but because we still parts of it are floatable, but we're still not where we need to be.
Hmm.
Kind of hoping we see some of that here in the coming spring, but otherwise, season two may look a lot like season one. It may be pretty spread out and sparse, and we'll do White River this year, I'm sure, because that's just world class trout fishing. But I prefer those rivers and creeks where you almost need that 4-wheel drive action to get to some of those spots because that's where
That's
those fish
right.
hang out at.
That's why I have I've got my rooftop tent. but I've got a lock rack system on top of it still
Hmm.
because the RVR can go up there and I
Yep.
can go drive down that stuff that needs, 4-wheel drive. And you mentioned cell service, and one of the things I am like determined I'm getting this year is I'm going to invest in the InReach, the Garmin
Oh,
InReach.
yeah.
I've been saying for years I'm going to get one, but like a lot of my stuff, 99% of the time I'm solo, whether it's on a lake, a river. I'll go find some access point that doesn't even have a name where I have like a legal stretch there I can get park and get in. And I'll just drop a pin to my fiance and be like, this is where I'm dropping. This is my plan. This is when I plan to get out. And then I'll just go. And a lot of times you don't have cell service or whatever. It would be great, not even in an emergency, but like you said, you guys got back and it was well after dark and you don't have cell service. You
Yeah.
can just send one of those texts to Christina and be like, hey, this is what's up. And whether she's answering or not, she gets that text and she's like, oh, okay, he's alive. And it's worth,
Yeah.
a couple bucks a month, I think.
And we use that Life 360 app a lot now too.
Hmm.
And it's just something like that because like and we can kind of piggyback off that into like PFDs. That's a big push with a lot of creators. Chad Hoover's doing stuff on it, Darren Wendell's doing stuff on it, and you'll see
Yeah,
a
I'm
lot
a
of,
huge supporter of the nowhere,
you
no
know,
share.
the PFD, especially on the Buffalo River. The Buffalo River, so many people die every year on that river. And it's not in the adventurous sections that you see or hear about. It's in the simplest things. It's a strainer in a foot and a half of water that they get hung up on, water presses against, and then they can't recover from it. Last year there was an elderly lady who passed away in literally a foot and a half of water. There was a root ball in the middle of the river. She got caught up on it, and her party couldn't come back upstream to help her out. So she drowned right there. Did not have a life jacket on. And, you
Every
could,
year.
yeah, you could put all the regulations you can on it. And I'm not advocating for legislation or anything, but just common sense. I respect people's freedom to choose. If you do whatever you want to do, don't need people bothering you about it. But somebody else cares about whether you make it home or not, whether it be your wife, your kids, your grandkids, your grandparents. Like somebody is counting on you to be home. So I always tell people think about that instead of your comfort or just how you feel in a life jacket. And chances are, if you don't feel right in a life jacket, you probably got the wrong life jacket too.
100%. And that's the thing. When you hit that root ball, at the moment when you really need that PFD, all that bravado of I can swim, the comments on Facebook, you're not thinking of any of that. All
No,
you're thinking about is, holy crap, I'm going to die.
yeah.
I wish I had the life jacket on.
the
And
first the
it,
first thing that leaves you is your motor skills in a
yeah.
situation like that. And Christina actually had a situation last year when we were on the Buffalo. There was a little bend and there was a tree coming across it, and she's going to laugh because it was funny afterwards. But during that small stretch of time there, it was she kind of panicked a little bit because she instead of paddling around it, she went to reach and push off of the tree, and then what happened is
Oh, yeah.
her kayak tipped over and she went in the water. Now this is maybe a foot of water again, but not touching, being in water and not touching the bottom, and you get that little cold rush where it just
Hmm.
and you start thinking of everything all at once. You're not focused on what you're doing, and that's why I don't like inflatable PFDs. Is when
I
you're
don't
doing
either.
that, when you're reaching for stuff and you're trying to grab onto something. Yeah,
Mistakes were
um,
made.
you
Well, and
know,
it could be a foot of water.
yeah,
And right on the backside of that tree, it might be 6 feet of water
yeah,
for that one little spot, but
yeah,
it might be.
yeah, and inflatable life vest again. They may be Coast Guard approved. Some of them may not be, but you're counting on yourself being able to pull a cord and have the presence of mind in a panicky situation.
Hmm.
Granted, if you're just out in the middle of the lake or something or close to the shore, it may not be a big deal to you. But those situations like getting pinned up on something or, not being able to get back to shore immediately and thinking about what to do, the last thing you're thinking about is pulling the cord, going through the process of, you know, tightening this up, pulling this, making sure the canister is armed. Did you remember to screw that in and arm it before you went?
Or
There's
even
just
just trusting it to go off on its own.
exactly,
That's
yeah,
even crazier because I mean, most of them have either auto and the cord. Some of them just have auto and the little inflate tube. And I'm
yeah,
sorry, anybody who thinks that in an emergency they're going to be able to stop and start blowing that thing up is out of their minds.
yeah.
But
There was
what's making me absolutely insane is on the kayak fishing groups. The amount of people when they're like, "What PFD do you recommend?" The amount of people getting on there telling people about like the Onyx belt, they're like it's Coast Guard approved. I'm like, most of them aren't, first of all, but the ones that are, they're approved as a secondary
yeah.
device. And these people are just wearing it around their belt like I'm good to go, better than nothing. And it's like, well, that one might not be better than nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's just me suggesting, and these are my opinions and my biases, obviously. But I understand comfort. I understand it gets hot out there. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
your fight or
There,
flight stuff, it goes right out the window, man.
yeah. This is her scientific explanation, which is 100% accurate. Fine-tuned motor skills disappear during fight or flight situations, and that is 100% true.
Yeah,
Is you're that adrenaline flowing? You're not thinking clearly, even if you know how. I mean, is as bad out of shape as I've gotten off and on through my life. I've always been a great swimmer. I grew up around water, but like I've been in some situations where I've had that life jacket on, where I was like, man, thank God I had that thing on because that could have
me
been really,
too.
even if you're out in the middle of the lake, that can really take a lot of energy out of you just getting back. And then even last year we saw these kayak anglers, these boats coming up on these kayaks that are about half full of water, and I think there were two instances last year where the PFD was attached to the kayak,
Yeah.
and then in both situations they found the angler, they passed away from drowning. So yeah. And one of them was I guess, a big name in kayak fishing, but yeah,
Oh,
just
one of them was quite young.
yeah, yeah. I think that was the same one I was thinking of too. I mean, they found that kayak a couple days before, and I'm just thinking of, like, I'm looking at that thing and I'm like, that this is probably not going to end well, because
Mm-mm.
even if he had, if he was able to swim, he might have been out in the middle of water and just gotten exhausted, or there's a lot of things that can go wrong there. But
Well, and I'm always telling to not preach to people, it's the wrong word, educate, but like even just the PFDs, like you said, if you're not comfortable, you got the wrong one. Somebody commented or made a post rather on one of the kayak groups the other day, and he said, "Hey, can somebody suggest to me a good PFD? Because I have an NRS Chinook and the thing is way too hot." And I commented, and I'm like, if
I
you
saw
think
that.
the Chinook is too hot, you're wearing the wrong kind of clothing. Like, so
Yeah,
the clothing is equally important. But I try to teach people, like, don't just get a PFD, get a quality one that you can also use to outfit like your safety stuff. Like, so my Chinook in the right pocket, I've got my cell phone tethered to the inside of the pocket. So like my
yeah,
phone's always with me. There's a whistle in the left one along with some other stuff, but I've got a knife right here on the other chest in a quick release. Like if I need a knife, I don't want to have to look for it. It's not going to do me any good in my bag.
yep,
But so if I go in the water, at the very least, I know I've got my phone, I've got a whistle, I've got a knife, I've got my PFD on. There's certain things you can kind of stash in your PFD. I've got a little thing of nail clippers I don't even use for my fishing line. They're just tucked in there.
yeah,
It makes a huge difference, and it happens like super fast. Like you said, in the middle of the lake, people will practice more, don't practice than do the recovery and all that stuff.
yeah,
But the first thing you notice, at least in my experience, the times that it's happened, when you flip a kayak, especially something like the ocean or whatever, the first thing your brain goes to for me is I can't touch the ground. For
yeah,
some reason, you don't think about it when you're up in the kayak. The second you hit the water, you're like, all right, plant your feet, and you're like, oh wait, like it's this weird thing that happens to your brain, and that alone can instill that, like, whether momentary or prolonged, that little bit of panic that, like, oh yeah, I can't touch the ground. It's like, what do I do now?
okay. Can you come back? Come on.
Oh, you got the prettiest dogs too.
Got a dog. A little bit. Gonna be camera shy.
I've heard mine bark a couple times while we're on here, and I'm like, oh, just be quiet.
Hey,
Hey there, pretty.
he's a good boy.
What's up, dude?
Yeah.
I have a Belgian Mal and a German Shepherd, and man,
Ooh.
they're just the greatest dogs.
I've got my cousin Lydia. She's got a Belgian, just is which is she had it as a pup, and she's had it trained, like
Hmm.
ultra trained. But you talk about a machine. So I grew up visiting them as a kid, and yeah,
Christina said I got the other three
yeah,
dogs.
we've got a dog problem. We want them all. That's a problem. But the her Malinois is watching her just fetch. So she's got the little wand with the hoop, and
Oh
they call
yeah.
it the little highlight stick.
Hmm.
Throwing that ball, and she'll throw that ball and just send it, and then it has the restraint. It won't go get it until she tells it to go. But when she tells it to go, like it's digging up dirt, it's throwing dirt. It's the most impressive, most athletic animal I've ever seen. It's a because
Shelby used to hit trees at a full run. Like she'd be chasing a squirrel and it would go up the tree, and she would just hit that tree and try to grab that squirrel. And I'm
yeah,
like,
they're
my God, dude, you're gonna break a hip.
unreal. Now this German Shepherd here, we got it came up on Christina's parents' property, and he's he's about worthless. He's a great dog, but I mean he's not, he's not what I would call a working dog by any means. He's got a bed here next to me. He's laying on. He was laying on the couch behind me before that. So like he'll just lay down wherever I'm at. But and same thing with our other three dogs. But if our dogs are barking, they're going to bark if we get an intruder, and that's all I want. That's all I need out of a dog as far as guard dog goes. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
need a I don't need an attack dog. I've got other things in the house that would deter people from breaking in. And put it that way. So,
Shelby has reached her my Mal has reached her geriatric stage. So
mm.
she's 10. So she's actually Learberg trained
Oh
from
wow,
a pup. So super dialed in, very good, and has now entered retirement, if you will. Like
yeah,
she barks at everything. Doesn't matter if there's something there or not. She barks at everything. So I have to take her with a grain of salt. Like when she starts barking, and then Hannah's 8. She's the German Shepherd.
hmm,
When I hear Hannah start that low growl, I'm like,
yeah,
oh, okay, now I need to go look. But like Shelby, she's gonna bark if somebody comes in the house. But
yeah.
she's not chasing a ball. She's not, my daughter got her some steps. She came over from my mom's with steps for the bed
Oh
because
yeah,
Shelby has a hard time getting on my bed. That damn dog won't use them. She just looks at him and barks. And like, so she was struggling to get up on the bed the other day. I still had the steps up. And she like misses. And I'm like, Shelby, just use the stairs. And I try to show her and she barks at me. And then she tries to get up again. She gets most of the way. And then she falls and she yelps because it hurts. And I'm like,
yeah.
just use the stairs. And she barks at me. So the third time she misses, I'm like, just use the stairs. And she just starts mouthing me. And then she like comes around the corner at like this geriatric gallop and like roll throws herself onto the bed and just looks at me like, what now? And I'm like, you stupid idiot, just use the stairs.
Yeah, we've got an older black lab that's got some hind leg weakness, and she can't jump up on the bed anymore. So instead of trying, we've got a little storage bench on the end of the bed that she could jump up and use as a stair. But all she'll do is she'll just kind of hop. She doesn't hop
Mhm.
on all four. She'll just kind of her front paws will come up just enough, and you'll hear her feet clicking against the floor here, and like she'll just do that, and we don't know what she needs, but that's her way of communicating to us, whether she needs to go outside or get something to drink, or she just needs us to wake up or something for some reason. But great dog, but she's God. I want to say she's 12, 12 or 13. Like
Which
she's
for
getting up there.
a lab is fairly normal. Like uh, labs will go like, 15, 16, sometimes more.
Yeah,
German Shepherd, Belgian Mal, man, when they hit 10, it's like,
yeah.
oh boy.
Usually, I think what is it after 8 is considered past prime, and then
Yeah.
12. You're lucky to
12,
have 12.
12 would be considered, oh my God, what an old
Yeah,
Belgian Mal. And it upsets my girlfriend or my fiance, sorry, when I say it, but because she's got Pip. And so we'll have three dogs in the house or whatever. And I told her, I'm like, it upsets me too. But I'm like, honestly, I'm like, Shelby's 10. Like, she's grown up with Kira.
Yeah.
She's always been in the same house. I said, honestly, once we all move in together and she realizes that, like, me and Kira, like, gonna be okay, whatever, I was like, she'll probably, just one day she won't be there. She'll just check herself out. Because, I mean, she's just, at this point, you have to know it's coming. Like, she's just old, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just use the stairs.
See if I can. Yeah.
I like the bona fide shirt. Oh, yeah. He's comfy back there.
Yeah. Worthless.
Guard dog on duty.
Yeah.
Oh, you're pretty.
Got to act like he's doing something now.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm on camera. I better show off. A friend of mine in high school had a guard cat
Really?
that yeah, it didn't bark or anything, but you couldn't come through the door without it attacking you.
Yeah.
Like, I'd come through the front door sometimes. Like, I'd stop and look for that damn cat. Like, I'd look around, I wouldn't be able to see it, and then take a couple steps in, and it hit you from the back because it was like up above the door or some
Yeah.
ninja crap. And the cat wasn't a good deterrent to keep you out, but anybody who entered the house was going to regret it.
A mean cat would scare me so much more than a mean dog, though.
My buddy bought my PWR, which is an upgrade from his Outlaw, and he texted me
Oh
the other
yeah.
day. He had just got home from work or something. He went down in the basement to mess with the kayak and kind of get ready for this tournament. And he's like, "That damn cat's been scratching at my deck pads."
Yes.
And I
That
was
is
like, "Oh man, that would make me so mad."
that's a big problem, especially with the bona fides. So we had a lot of get my camera back. We
This
had a
is a
lot
normal
of
thing that happens.
yeah, we had a lot of customers that would get like the SS series,
Hmm.
and the on the SS series and bona fide they had those big old foam pads on the sides. They didn't really have a great purpose, but those would always be what cats would like. Say they keep it in the barn or a storage shed, and
Hmm.
the outdoor cats or something. Cats would get in there and just sharpen their claws on those pads, and just it was a problem. That would
Makes you wonder if
drive.
it's got catnip in it.
Yeah, I guess when they get on it and they that feel of it, and it just feels like something that they could just sharpen their claws on, which could be farther from the truth, but man, it'll make a mess. Because then when they start digging into there, you're digging up that adhesive film and all that. Like it makes a big mess. But yeah,
Oh, I'd be so mad.
cats and kayaks don't really mix that well. So
I had a squirrel in my Outback. I had stored it. This was an interesting one. I stored it out back for like 2 months. I can't remember what I was doing in the garage. I want to say I was like painting a hutch or something for Kelly for an anniversary present, and I had wrapped it up in tarps, like multiple directions. And I was like, it'll be fine. So when I unwrapped all the tarps, I mean, it just looked fine. Just looked like my kayak. There wasn't water in it. There wasn't holes in the tarps. So I brought it back in the garage. Well, apparently a squirrel had decided to take up residency. I hadn't latched the front hatch down enough, and I
yeah,
had the bucket out, and apparently it had got down in there. Well, the way I found out is I kept thinking I was hearing something in the garage, but I was like, "Oh, I'm losing my mind." Well, I wanted to make sure there's no water inside, so I had leaned it up and opened the plug, and nothing came out. But so I lift the hatch up and I get in there with the flashlight, and all of a sudden there's something like running at me, and my brain can't process that it can't get to me.
yeah,
I just see motion and something coming at me. And I jump back. Holy crap! About
yeah.
pee myself, and I hear scratch, 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 thump, 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 thump. And I'm like, what the hell is in the kayak? So now I've got my cell phone, and I'm like sliding it between the lid with the flash on, and I'm taking pictures, trying to see what it is because I don't stick my head back in there, and I can't tell. So finally, I just man up and I stick my head back in there and take a deep breath, and I see the squirrel running around in the bottom. But because it's tilted up, it can't get to me because
Yeah.
it can't run up the hull. And it about gave me a heart attack. So then I had to open the garage door and take it back outside. I open the front hatch and I lean it forward and just start shaking it until the squirrel comes flying out of there and just takes off across the yard.
It's a good video though. That'd be a good
I,
video to put
I
up.
wish it, if I would have thought about it, like I was a fairly new content creator. If I would have happened today, I'd have been like, you know what, you ain't going anywhere. Let me go get my
Yeah, yeah.
camera.
You got to set up the studio. Got to do all that. I I've seen, of course, I repaired kayaks too. So we'd seen people that, they, again, they're storing it under a carport or they're storing it in a barn and they bring in their kayak. And I've seen rats or even mice, they'll chew in the scupper hole. So,
Oh man, what a bad place to have a repair.
because if it's sitting on the ground, mice will get in there, they'll chew through it so they can access inside the hole. And not only do you have just mouse or rat crap all over the inside of a kayak, but the hardest thing to repair with plastic weld on a kayak is this inside the scupper hole itself. So, because it's a
Yeah.
much thinner and weaker plastic, it's literally just molded in just for water drainage. It's not meant to be load bearing or anything like that. And
Not to mention getting a plastic welder in there and everything.
yeah, and you heat it up too much, and it's simply just going to warp the plastic in there. It's delicate, and after a while, I would ask people like, are you okay with doing away with one of your scupper holes? I would just seal it off top and bottom. I'm like, because that's the only way, as much flexing is going to be in there now. It's just
Hmm.
you're going to take in water, and it's going to be the worst possible time when it starts coming in because it's when you're going to least expect it, and you're going to be on the water. So yeah, I've done a ton of those. I'm not sure if it was ever squirrels, but I could definitely see a squirrel doing that. They can just get started on it. Yeah, once they get started, they can chew a pretty good chunk out of those kayaks. So
There's a creature, I can't remember what it is. There's some national park. I heard it on a meat eater. There's a national park where they have a massive problem with this like one specific type of critter like that. And it likes to eat radiator lines, I think is what it was.
yeah,
So like hundreds, thousands, whatever visitors to this park a year. There's like signs and everything telling you to like protect your car. People will like wrap their car in like plastic wrap because hundreds of people a year get stranded because they chew through the radiator lines.
wow, like prairie dogs maybe, or
Maybe I'm gonna have to go back and
oh,
look for it
that's
now.
crazy.
But like Christian's Outlaw, I think it was last year. I did plastic welding on it to get him through another season.
Yeah.
His deck, where you stand on the Outlaw, it cracked, but they were minor cracks and they were inside the drain channel. So like
Oh yeah.
not even a scupper, but like just barely wide. Like it was actually about the same width as the plastic welding, the little metal insert piece. And
Yeah.
so that alone was a nightmare to like get in there and try to get a repair going that wouldn't like, get to his feet or anything. I can't imagine actually trying to do it inside a scupper hole.
Yeah, it's almost not worth even trying it. That's why I said I just got to where I was just sealing off the actual scupper hole, just making it all waterproof, and it'll last a lot longer too. Especially if what a lot of people will do is they'll just melt a patch on top of something and then call it good. Well, it'll last maybe a trip or two, but once that plastic underneath it starts flexing, that crack will keep running, and then it'll pop off like a cap. So what I always did was I would heat up the damage, heat up the plastic, and then we would kind of stick. I'd have a plastic stick, and then I'd have obviously the kayak. I'd kind of soften up really good, just where it starts to look kind of glossy, and then
Hmm.
we'd take that stick, we'd poke it in there, and then we'd twist it, and then what it did is it would draw the plastic
Oh
from the
yeah.
hole into it, and it would look like a beaded weld on there. But obviously, we're having to drill holes on the ends of the crack to keep it from continuing to run, which
Hmm.
is you think is counterproductive. Two things I would do is drilling a hole on the end of the crack, and I would make the crack bigger so that we can get plastic in it and not just on top of it. So,
Yeah,
but
I took a Dremel and I kind of almost grooved it on top to like
yeah,
give somewhere for the plastic to go. And then I actually went like, I don't know, maybe an inch, inch and a half on either side of the crack with the metal inserts where it didn't
mhm,
even really need them. But you're like, if it tries to spread.
yeah,
I didn't really think about drilling the hole. I think about that more like metal because like when you weld and stuff you'll drill because like it expands or whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think about it with the plastic. I was like, well, I guess if I terminate it on either end with the metal, it's probably going to be all right. But
Yeah, and
luckily
all
that's
that
a
does, it just it stops the crack, and you got a perfect round hole on there, so it isolates it. Because over time, whether you're standing on it on ground, you're strapping it down to something, or you're just going over some shoals, you're going to get some flexing on that, and heat, and
Mhm.
plastic, and sun, and yeah, it's just and there's no perfect way to repair. I mean, there's good ways and bad ways, but uh, you know once that you see a major crack, you can patch it up, but you're always going to want to keep an eye on it because I mean, there's no such thing as a permanent place.
Mhm.
I don't care how much mesh you're using or plastic or it's always going to be something because you got new plastic on top of old plastic, and you can bond it, you can do whatever you need to do there, but there's always going to be that in the back of your mind is like, is this the trip where I start taking in water? And once a crack gets so bad or it's been so long, I always tell people like you may want to consider looking at a new kayak because we can keep repairing it, but one of these days you're
Yeah.
going to get out in the water and it's going to be, you're going to be in a situation you don't really want to be in, depending on the crack, of course. I mean,
I mean, when my Tupperware cracks, I throw it away, man. I
yeah,
don't I don't get out this spaghetti stained, Rubbermaid container and try to plastic weld it. Ain't no different than kayak. It's just big old Tupperware. A little
oh
more
man, I,
expensive.
I tell you what, I saw one of these posts today, and I see this a lot, and I saw it a lot when I was at the shop. People thinking somebody posts on Facebook that the plastic is on the kayak is no different than milk jugs, and that's all you need. And
Yeah,
it's
people
like,
don't realize how much difference there is. Like
yeah,
I tell people all the time, save your plastic shavings and your cutouts, man,
yeah.
because you
Uh,
need that plastic.
a plastic jug or zip ties or Lowe's buckets. I've seen all those. Don't get me wrong, something like that can get you out of a bad situation, but it's not going to be that permanent fix because the melting point, and I've got some video clips, and I'm going to release that here pretty soon, I think, especially now that we're kind of in kayak season. But we had a customer bring in I want to say it was an Old Town kayak, but they'd done some plastic weld with Lowe's buckets because it was just blue.
Oh
And
yeah.
I took a heat gun and you just put it across there, and it just melted away like water. Like it just came right off. I didn't have to chip it
Hmm.
off or anything. And the plastic that goes on there, like I've got to crank that up to 450 to 475 and or above to really get that liquefied, and it takes a while as to where it's just a lower density plastic, which is what you get a lot of your foreign made kayaks. That's where that savings comes into play. Is they use a cheaper plastic. It's a lower density. A lot of those foreign made kayaks you can't actually do an effective plastic weld on. So you'll see people throw a patch on it or, JB weld or all that, but it's not going to.
Fiberglass.
Yeah, fiberglass. I've heard someone say zip ties. Yeah, if you got a lighter and you got some zip ties or a plastic bucket, you can get back to the shore with it, but
Yeah.
don't just go forward full steam ahead thinking that thing is fixed because if it didn't take any more heat, I can melt that off with a hair dryer. I mean, it's not going to work. So
I won't keep you too much longer, but you just said something made me think of a question. What do you think of the Caminos?
I'll say this: Caminos, FluxJet, this new thing, this Mako, whatever it
The
was.
Makamatana or whatever it was
Yeah,
called.
I think the industry is better off if they succeed.
Hmm.
The only hesitation I have with any of those companies is I always tell people be very cautious of the hype. So when you see trendy video clips, they're on TikTok, they're doing all this crazy reels and shorts and TikToks with it, but you're not seeing the boats.
Hmm.
That is usually a red flag for me. It doesn't mean there won't be successful, but you know, there's kayak companies that have built a reputation off of hype. And what it does, in my opinion, is it gets people so hyped up that they're thinking that kayak is something that it's not. It's going to be a
Hmm.
you know, it's like someone that goes out and buys a Pelican or a Lifetime, and I'm not talking about the ones that are meant for motors. I'm talking about the ones that are just you see in bundles at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I want to put a 6 horsepower motor on the back of this Lifetime kayak. Yeah, like you're in the wrong kayak. But when you look at those those Caminos and all that, like it's the same guy that started Vibe,
Vibe. That's what made me
and
think of it.
yeah. So I mean, they're making it the same way Vibe was. It's going to be, again, I want to say the FluxJet kayaks Vibe also. So, or it's made in the same facility at least. So,
Hmm.
and that was my thing. I've seen a FluxJet kayak. You know, I think it's a great idea. I think it can be a very good product. It's just now they built up so much of a demand that you're getting people really upset that they're getting notices of delays and more delays. And I mean, we're almost in May and they haven't really shipped anything out yet. So
Yep.
to
And
me,
Caminos are at least starting to hit the dealers.
yeah.
Like I saw Eco got some.
Yeah, and like I said, it looks nice, but I'm just going off the same trendy reels that everybody else has seen. So it looks there's definitely some copying in there, which I'm not going to slide them for that, but
Yeah.
there are some unique things. There's some good ideas, and it's innovation. So I'm not going to turn my nose up thinking, you're not going to hear me say if you're not in a new canoe or a bona fide that you're not kayaking. That's
Oh
not that
yeah,
at all.
100%.
I want them to succeed because it's that competition is going to make everybody else better.
Hmm.
And when everybody else is having to go up to that competition, we're the one that win. Like, we're consumers. So
Oh
we're
yeah.
look, we're looking for that next big thing. I just I think they build up so much excitement with all these trendy things that you're kind of losing sight of what it's meant for. If somebody's wanting to take one of those kayaks and turn it into a tournament fishing rig, it's probably not the best thing for you. But if you're just wanting something cool and unique to throw in the back of a truck and go on a float trip or, go around a small pond or a small lake with, yeah, it's probably going to be a pretty good option for you. I said
I,
that's my hope at least. I said I'm not going to speak too detailed on something that I have no hands-on knowledge with, but just the history of those kayaks are not the best as far
yeah.
as those upstarts that just come out of nowhere and they've got a plastic version of the native propel drive and a plastic version of a bona fide or a native seat or a new canoe swivel chair and it you get what you pay for with some of that stuff as in if you see a pedal kayak for $1,000, it's probably worth $1,000. It's you're not getting a
Hmm.
$3,000 kayak for $1,000, so it's
I am always impressed by people that do like all these FluxJet pre-orders. I'm like, man, it looks like a cool concept.
yeah,
I would love to see a quality motor like that built with a great kayak. Like, I would like to see a PWR 129 type kayak with that kind of motor. But man, I'm not putting money on anything I haven't been able to at least see somebody in that,
yeah,
like people are out fishing it. I'm like Wendell Fishing did that video clip with that Makatana, whatever the name is, we're
yeah,
butchering it, but it's super cool. The idea of a pedal motor with spot lock
yeah.
and cruise and other stuff. But the question is like, if you buy that thing in a year, 2 year, whatever, is that motor still going? Like we don't know yet,
Can you
but
get
I'm
parts
sure
for it?
excited about the idea of it.
Yeah, can you get parts for it? That's the number one thing that I
Oh
ask is,
yeah.
what's the warranty look like? What does the warranty service look like? Because that's the number one complaint people have about Hobie right now. And
Yeah.
and they're the same they're the same cookie cutter of all these companies is you've got a hull that may be manufactured in the States or recently Mexico, but a lot of the parts come from China, from Taiwan, and and little bitty things like seat buckles and seat fasteners and you know internal parts, the belts and the drives and stuff. Those are the parts that are failing, and those are the parts that people can't get a hold of. So if you've spent, I don't care if you spent $1,000 or less or above on a kayak, and you're told that it's going to be 5 months before you can get it back on the water because they're waiting on the part, that's going to put a really bad taste in your mouth. And
It's a big chunk. It's in some places like Michigan, that's your whole season.
yeah, yeah, and that is it. And that's kind of my thing with FluxJet is I love the idea. Can you imagine a jet motor on a Crescent K craft? You know,
Oh,
the
no
little
kidding.
boat, like anything like that is going to be phenomenal. It brings an idea to the market, and the amount of people that have pre-ordered these FluxJet kayaks, that tells you something about the industry. Is it's not dead. We were
Correct.
stagnant for a little bit. We peaked, the bubble burst on the used kayak market. So now used kayak prices are definitely a lot better. And then now you're not seeing as many of them. So now you're seeing a big spike in the new kayak industry. And
Hmm.
that's going to be a good thing. I mean, you know, there for a couple of years, it seemed like you can go on Facebook Marketplace at any given time, and there's just dozens of kayaks for sale. If you live near water, there's
Yeah.
kayaks everywhere. And maybe it was during COVID. Everyone's gonna have these stimulus checks that they're blowing on kayaks or RVs or ATVs, and at least the down payments on some of them. And
The
yeah,
spring
now
after COVID was a great time to buy a used kayak.
I'll tell you what, it was a good time to sell them too.
I bet.
There were people getting new prices for used kayaks because you couldn't get the new kayak. And so this
Hmm.
guy had like, hey, this thing's been on the water once or twice and it's in new condition. Like, yeah, give me out on the water, and
My
it was,
Outback sold for a phenomenal price.
yeah, yeah. I remember I had a New Canoe Frontier 12. That was my COVID boat. And I sold it a couple of years after that. And I mean, yeah, I got about what I paid for it, but you couldn't get it. They were still having problems with the supply, and it was a used kayak. I mean, I didn't sell it for new price or anything, but nor would I want to. I mean, I just basically sold it for what I got it for. But yeah, now it's like, okay, now we're back to about half a retail, because I always tell people to be cautious with used kayaks. Because keep in mind, I don't care if it's ever been on the water, you don't have a warranty. Your price needs to
Yeah.
reflect that. So if someone, if it's brand new, $2,500, and you find a used one for 2,200, it's like, is not having a warranty worth just $200 for you? And the answer should be no. It's they're
I
asking too
do.
much for it.
I do enjoy when the guys go in the groups and are like, "Hey, I'm looking at this kayak, this used kayak. Can you give me some insight?" And you've always got those guys that are like, "Flip it over and look for scratches." Like, what my favorite content I think that gets made is Wendell every time he makes a video just dragging a kayak
Hmm.
across a parking lot, the woods, whatever. Because some of these people do not realize that the bottom of those things are intended to be consumable. Like there's so much plastic there, it's not even funny. And they freak out when Wendell's dragging this thing on leaves and stuff. And I'm like, well, here's a 45-second clip of me dragging my RVR across all this chunk rock.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I've got a Jackson kayak in the garage that's been my river kayak for years, and the bottom of that looks like I've just abused it because I have. You're
Yeah.
dragging it over some of these areas. I do everything with it. Like, so if I get hung up on a shoal, instead of getting out and just dragging it gently like you're supposed to, I'm digging my paddle into the ground, just rocking back and
I
forth, and
do
or
the same thing.
I take the wrong line on a shoal, and instead of going to where the water is, I hit head on to a pointy rock sticking out of it, and that you don't see until the last minute. Like, yeah, I abuse it, but they take it. That thing is never taken in a drop of water, and it's not as thick as some of these sit on tops. So yeah, they're meant to do that. Now, granted, when you see Wendell dragging them, he's dragging them with a strap and it's dragging flat. Some
Yeah.
people will grab the handle and then drag it just on that back.
Yeah.
That
No, you
will
got to drag
wear,
them flat.
yeah, that will wear pretty quick because you're putting all the weight of the kayak and all of the wear on just a small patch. So usually when I hear people say like, "Hey, why don't they who makes a good keel guard for X kayak?" I'm like, well, like you can get them, but you may want to just reconsider on how you're using your kayak. Are you getting a run at it and then ramming that keel up against pavement every time, or are you paddling it in sideways and getting out of it sideways? There's a lot of
I
things
need
you.
to I need to get a Burley Pro for the front of the Titan. I never had one on the PWR, but one of my favorite things to do at the end of the day with the stern motor is just cruising about a quarter throttle towards the ramp. And then at the last second, just giving that little bit of juice, and then it just slides up on the ramp, and I step out, and
Yeah, yeah,
or chunk rock, and it's nice when you can find some sand, but there was some chunk rock, not too chunky, but it was like gravel with a couple bigger rocks in it the other day. And there was somebody on the ramp, so I was going to the right, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'm just cruising. I just looked down, went, and then turned the motor off, and it bounced up there. And he's like, "Don't you worry about that?" And I was like, "No, not even a little bit."
no, not at
I
all.
had the PWR still has. If you look at the front, Christian will fix it eventually. But if you look at the front from like a slight angle, it looks like a curled up toenail near the front keel
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
there's a spot where I hit a rock a little too aggressively and it just shaved some plastic down. So it left a nice little gouge and then it just kind of balled up at the bottom. And every time I'd walk by it, I'm like, yeah, I should pop that off of there and smooth it
yeah.
out. And I go,
That'll
eh.
buff out. The worst damage I've ever seen. It was the very first New Canoe Unlimited I sold, and a guy, his grandmother had bought it for him or something like that. And it was when, we were basically selling the kayaks before they even showed up.
Uh huh.
We get shipping orders, and like that's how crazy it was then. But I did everything. So we put the Motor Guide XI3 motor on it. We had all the workings on it, and he had it in the back of his truck where the nose is sticking out of it, and he forgot to tie it down to one of the loops in the back of the truck. And he said he drug it for several hundred yards. He said it was a ways. I'm like, we'll just bring it in. I'll take a look at it. So you know how the New Canoe Unlimited, you got a pretty sharp keel on the front of it, and it's curved like a canoe.
Yeah.
He sawed that thing about 45 degrees.
Oh my God.
He had rubbed the keel down all the way to where you can see through the hull, which is
That's crazy.
quite a bit. That's probably about 3 or 4 inches off of actual kayak being chewed off. So it was on paved road. He was literally dragging it from behind his truck, and he was oblivious to it. He didn't hear anything, didn't feel anything. It just this thing is just going across the road, and I had to like basically melt 3D print. I melted some keel on it, but I basically fixed the hole. But he was wanting me to build it out. I was like, well, if you do that, that's just a bigger piece that's going to break off. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's gonna look kind of gnarly, but that's a really cool story though, and it's not gonna leak because it was a
Like, listen, you might not track as well as you used to.
yeah, it may pull to the right a little bit. So yeah, that was
Oh, that's
great. He
funny.
said he was about in tears. I felt bad for him, but I said, man, you're good. I've seen worse as far as just holes and cracks. Like we just need to seal this up. It's not a big deal. We did the wrap on it and then the plastic over it and bonded it and melded it together. And he never had a problem with it after that. But man, it's like he was thinking that he had ruined this really nice thing that he finally got, and he'd been waiting on it for so long. And I was like, man, like you're good, but man, I saw that. I felt his pain because like I would have had the same panic seeing that.
He looks in the rearview mirror a lot now.
Yeah, he still gets PTSD when he doesn't even have the kayak back there. He's like, "Ugh." I'm like just looking back there all the time. Yeah, it's
Oh, there's Corey Church checking in at
hey,
the end
okay, yeah.
there.
I've had many conversations with him over the phone.
Me too. I haven't talked to Corey in a while. It's just,
Yeah.
matter of fact, I owe him a phone call. I told him I would. I just keep losing track of everything with as busy as the orders and stuff have been. It's like I say every podcast, like, man, as soon as I get off of here, that's what I'm gonna do. Go run 10 tags.
Well, I'm probably going to get some with that with this new with the new UMax I've got. I'm obviously going to have to motorize it, so I'll probably get some decals from you here shortly. But I gotta do my walkthrough video, and then we're gonna get Christina on the tandem. Get her on the tandem side of it, whether she wants to or not. And
Yeah, she said you're gonna end up in the lake.
yeah, I told her it's like we're gonna have our marriage certificate in the gear pod in the front just in case it doesn't work out. So
I
just
gotta,
we'll have
I gotta,
documentation proving her that we're married. You can't go anywhere. So
I'm gonna refilm my walk. I actually filmed the walk-in video of the Titan, and then the next time out, changed a bunch of stuff, and now after a couple of times, I got it pretty dialed in now. But I changed some stuff, so now I'm just going to refilm the whole thing because I hadn't even edited it yet.
Biggest thing I'm going to do with the UMax, I'm going to paddle it. I'm gonna do a video of me just paddling it. So before I motorize any kayak, I paddle a kayak because if it paddles relatively well, I know how it's going to perform with a motor on it. I feel like
I
too.
I was not paddling that Titan.
No, 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 no. I think you might be surprised on how well that goes through the water. That Titan though, that is the most stable kayak I've ever been in. The Titan 12.5X.
Oh my God. I was, now, a little bit of TMI, but now I can't pee in the scupper holes anymore because on the PWR, I never plugged the things.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
on this thing, it's a wet ride if you don't plug them.
yeah,
So now I pee off the side and it's like I can damn near stand on the gunnel. So
yeah,
now, like, I stand up and I get one foot on this side of the pedal drive and the other foot up on the hatch or the gunnel, and I just stand up. And I'm the other day I was leaning pretty good. I was pushing it a little bit, but I could feel the kayak leaning, not quite on secondary stability, but it's leaning. And I got waves coming behind me, it's bumping me, and I never felt unstable.
yeah.
I was like, I'm a big boy. I'm like, this thing is a beast.
I've been in all of them. I've been in an XTR. I've been in a Pro Angler 14. I've been in all of them. That kayak was by far the most. And I'm talking about primary stability, obviously. So that
Yeah,
initial wiggle, you know, man, I got onto that. And I was like, holy crap, because I have terrible balance. I've got really bad ankles, and it affects my balance. So I'm the best person to talk about stability for that reason, is because I'm not one of these guys like I'm not Drew Gregory standing on a little bitty kayak going down current. Like, I'm 6'5", 255, and I've got bad ankles. So like if I'm stable, if I'm standing up, I filmed a whole segment of me just standing on the kayak with
yeah.
with the little action camera, and I'm like, this is how stable this is. Because like if I was doing this on any other kayak and I wasn't paying attention to my bearings, I'd be going over the side of it. So
Yeah.
and
You and I are not like Drew Greger or Austin Hoover. We're bigger
yeah,
guys.
and again, I joke about the Drew Gregory thing because when Drew designed the original Coosa for Jackson, the Coosa was not the most stable kayak in the world, but it was one of the best river kayaks in the, so it
Hmm.
was maneuverable, it was lightweight. But watching him do videos of him standing on the nose of it, and I would tell people, you get big guys like me and you, where it's like, hey, can I stand up and fish from that? And they're like, absolutely not. It's like,
Yeah, there's people that can't even stand in it, let
yeah,
alone stand on the front.
Drew is not a tall or a big guy, like, and his personal balance is probably a lot better than mine or yours. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's like you're not, because we get big guys and they just tip it over and then they'd want to bring it back, and I'm like, well, like, you need probably a bigger kayak. But yeah, if you know th- that's always tell when someone asks me about stability of a kayak, like you're shooting in the dark. Like personal balance, personal stability. Are
Hmm.
you somebody that's going to fall off a balance beam that's on solid ground? Well, if you're going to fall off a balance beam, you're probably not going to think this kayak is as stable as the guy that's doing flips off of it and closing his eyes and walking across it. So,
My buddy
personal
that bought,
balance is the number one thing that I always ask people is like, how is your balance otherwise? Because you're on a moving plastic boat, and you're going to think this is not stable when it is. It's just your personal stability is not where it needs to be.
my buddy who bought the PWR, my first time out in the Titan, he said, "So how stable is it?" And I said, "Dude, when I stand up, it don't move."
Yeah.
The
It's
first
something
time I
off.
stood up, I couldn't believe it. Didn't even wiggle.
Yeah. So he was asking, what am I thinking of motorizing the UMax? I've got the EPS system that New Canoe sells. I'm going to do that with the NK300 and then have the foot control steering. But they sell a setup to where you can do it on the solo and then the tandem. It's just the cable is a little shorter because your seat is a little further back. So I'm going to run both of them because I'm thinking, okay, the XTR was kind of designed as maybe a semi tandem type kayak, but
Hmm.
this is a lot more of an open dish style, flat, open space. So, in my opinion, you're going to be able to get the seats a little further apart from each other and kind of see maybe this might be that tandem option. Because I say that it's also a good solo option. You're not getting a one
Hmm.
trick pony there. So, there's some tandem kayaks out there that are great, but if you got a buddy or a significant other that don't want to go fishing, it's not going to get used. This here, you just sliding the seat forward, changing the cable out, and it's really, really easy. So looking forward to that. Waiting on the parts, and then we'll go from there. But we'll do some. It's going to be funny getting me and Christine on the same boat at the same time. So
It's going to be a good video.
yeah, two people. There's not two people out there that like giving each other crap more than me and her. Yeah, I'm going to do some temperature tests with the water because I don't have a depth finder. So I got to know how cold that water is, so I know where the bass are spawning. So I'm going to have to splash a little water on her, So and that's what
I
she's doing. She
I'm
takes
not
her.
running a I'm not running a graph anymore. And my buddy said to me the other day, he's like, "Let me know what the temperature is when you get to Mark Twain." And I text him and I said, "It's about 52 to 54." And then he was like, "Oh man, I forgot you don't have a graph." And I'm like, "Well, I stuck my foot in it." I'm like,
Yeah,
"It's my foot's pretty accurate. If you stick it in there and then it hurts a little, but you pull it out and it stops hurting, it's probably about
yeah,
52, 54."
yeah. We're in spawn if that's the case. But yeah, if it comes out and it's shivering and shaking and yeah, it's hurting. Yeah, it's
The person thinks they're going to get in trouble splashing the water on her.
yeah. She'll be all right. She'll be all right.
That's not intentional. That's paddle splash.
Yeah, that's just you're just in the line of fire. So at that point, and she'll have her PFD on. I had to get her another life jacket. So you see that right here, just so, and I bought it. I'm not
I think
sponsored
that's
or
the
anything
same
here.
one that I got for Kelly.
Yeah, this is the Stolquist Glide. Yeah, the Glide.
Okay. Not the
But that
same
makes
brand. I want to say Kelly's is like a hers might even be like an Onyx or something like that from Dick's Sporting Goods.
But these are great. She had another one that was just like it, same size, same color, and I did. I changed the oil on the Jeep for the first time, and I left the pan in the garage, and her life vest had fell in it. So
Oh no.
I told her I was like, just we're not going to we're not going to clean it up. We'll keep it just in case something happens. But yeah, it's like I'll get you another one.
Ziegler, I think, is thinking about canoes.
Well,
Canoes are divorce boats.
divorce boats with kayaks too. Some people think they want a tandem kayak, but what I always tell them is like, a tandem kayak is only good as two people wanting to go out at the same time. There's going
Mhm.
to be times where you want to go out. Like that's why me and Christina always have our own separate kayaks. Is she may want to go fish this other area, and I may want to go fish this area. We're going to come back and talk crap to each other, or talk about what we saw. But we're going to divide and conquer there. I'm thinking more of someone that wants to take a grandkid out or a young kid. Is this going to
Yeah.
be a good kayak to do that in? Are they going to have room? Are you going to have to worry about being in someone's backswing? Because I never suggest fishing tandem out of a kayak unless you've got a room or a good spatial awareness. And we're going to have two of the swivel seats on there. So I'm going to be fishing off right or left, and she's going to be fishing off the opposite. And, I think it'll be great. But yeah, it's definitely something that you want to make sure you've got some awareness on because it's still not ideal to be
Well,
for two people in a kayak like that.
you don't want to end up like David Beckerich. He's got that viral clip. He was bank fishing with his kids. He wasn't even in a
Yes,
kayak, and his
yes,
kid leans back and hooks him with that. I think it was a spoon.
personal
And
best.
yeah, that video
Talk
had
to
like
that guy
had
before
millions of views.
but he got a black belt in parenting though because like he was calm. He was his kid was scared to death because he hooked his dad, and his dad was definitely he was just calm. Like it's okay, and like saying it was my fault because he did walk in the kid's backswing there. So,
He could
but
not have handled it better.
I know that's what I mean. Like he handled it so well. Me, I'd have to calm down for a little bit, but
Uh
like
huh.
I'm not going to get on to the kid, obviously. But yeah, I was like I'm going to be yelling and cursing because it hurts. But yeah, I'm still
David's just kind of like that. He's just like a that dude is just real in
yeah
touch with just that neutral reaction, like just level. There was even a video clip where some he was fishing with the kids and some guys just like came out and started shooting guns into the river. And he was just like, okay, we're gonna pack up. We're gonna, he's just always kind of like that. But yeah, I'd have been cursing and
Yeah,
everything else, and
I'm a little
he
more
did. He didn't.
confrontational than that. That's
Yeah,
my downfall, I guess.
Christina says she's gonna end up hooking you anyway.
And she probably will. It'll be on video, which either way, it's a win-win. It'll pay my copay at the ER. So, uh, the funny thing though is the local hospital here in Mountain Home, they have a little shadow box of all the things that they've pulled out of people, and
Oh, that's cool.
there are so many fishing lures in that box. Because it's
Hmm.
yeah. A buddy of mine that used to work for me at the shop. He had a picture of a crankbait that he had in his cheek, and
Ooh,
then he kept fishing. I told him, like, dude, it's like you missed such a golden opportunity there. He's like, you could have took a picture of one of these monster smallmouth he caught with that in your face just to show
yeah.
how boss you really are. But yeah, he had to go to the hospital and get it removed because like he got it in there pretty deep. One of them things where you get it unsnagged and it
Hmm.
flying back at you and it just hit him right in the cheek.
At least once a trip, I go yank yank, and then I go like this,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I won one of those de-hooker tools from Marty Hughes podcast, and it's in the package up in the hatch of the Titan. And I hope I never have to open that package.
same here. Worst thing I've ever had was I got dumped from a kayak. I hit a root ball with the kayak and it flipped me over. And I had a rope and a anchor on the bow of the kayak, and my fishing pole, the lure on the end of it, I had one of them, a couple of them Rebel Craws with the treble hooks in it,
Hmm.
and my anchor had gotten hooked into that tree ball, so I had to get out of the kayak. I'm going over, and the water is moving, and it's about a little below chest height there. I grabbed that rope and didn't realize that lure was stuck in the rope, and I just grabbed
Ooh.
and just got both of those hooks right in my middle finger there. And of course, I'm mad anyway because I'm freezing cold. I lost my sunglasses and I'm trying to get my boat unhooked, and all because of something I knew better than to do anyway, but I did it.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's like, okay, I deserve this, and I just ripped it out. I'm
At
just
least
like,
the water's cold. You just kind of stick it
yeah,
back in there, and you're like, ah, yeah.
that and just the sheer rage of me doing something really stupid on the water. Just I was like, okay, I just took it out. I was fine, but yeah, some of those I've seen. It was a small enough hook where I can rip it and I'm fine. But some of those bigger treble hooks or even some of those offsets, they get in you. Yeah, you're going to be doing some trimming and some clipping and pulling it out there. So
My worst one in recent years was it was like February. Kelly and I had been dating like maybe 6 months, and she had when we first started dating, she used to show people that were my stupid videos, like, look what my idiot boyfriend did. And I had got a Ned rig snagged, and it's freezing cold, and I'm yank 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 yank, and it just flies and it cracks me right on the nose, and in real time it just hurt
yeah,
so bad, especially being cold. But when you watch it back in slow motion, like the way that thing comes in, that hook misses my eyeball by
mhm,
like you can't even see sunlight between it and my eye. And ever since that, I still yank on them like a moron.
yeah,
I yank on them with a bit of a cover, just
yeah.
ready to like to. And what's happened to me the last two times I've been out, I need to stop doing it. Is yanking crankbaits, and then they fly by me, they wrap around the poles, but then those treble hooks get caught in the lift rope of the NK 180. And I don't know if
Oh
you've ever done that, but
no, but I can imagine.
I have now decided that once that happens, that's where that crankbait stays until the
Yeah,
boat's on the trailer.
yeah,
I
because
just
it ain't
cut the
going anywhere.
line because,
Yeah, it ain't going
like,
anywhere.
hanging over the crate between all the rods with the pliers, like, no, you keep that crankbait.
Coming back to the ramp with just streams of braided line just flying out in the back, like streamers from an old bicycle or something from all the
You're like,
stuff. I've had
that's
them
my
hooked.
spare lore collection.
Yeah, I've had them hooked before in like kayaks that have front bungee. That's what I always tell people: you're fishing out of a kayak. The first thing you do is if it's got bungee cords across the bow, take that out because that will just always you'll always catch that.
Yep. This guy had one stuck in his bone.
Oh,
That sounds
ow!
awful. The I don't like the bungees across the front, but I
Yeah,
tell you what, one thing that doesn't seem to grab hooks is that strap on the RVR.
yeah,
The pull strap slash rod tip strap. It's never hooked anything. I like having that. I actually just use that to drag the kayak more than
Yeah,
anything.
I think it's actually meant to be snag proof, and even some of the seats. I know Jackson Kayak, their seats are supposed to be snag proof as well. It's got kind of a harder material, but
Hmm. Well, we've been going an hour and 49. I don't want to keep you
oh,
any longer. Yeah, I
oh.
know. I didn't realize it either. This might be the longest campfire conversations podcast yet.
Well, it's been a good one, man. I appreciate you having me on, and like I said, I said hopefully we're talking again after season two and
For sure.
getting ready for season three. I did get a new kayak for this one. I am going to keep it and probably run it again on season three. I've been so impressed with the New Canoe U10. It's not as agile as the RVR is. We've
Hmm.
got an RVR in the garage, so full disclosure there, but it's just a good all around kayak. You got the capacity, you got the swivel seat, it maneuvers well in current, and that was kind of my whole purpose was obviously showcase rivers and streams of the Ozarks, but also show people that these new canoe kayaks are not just big guy lake fishing kayaks. Like
Oh, 100%.
you can take this U10 out on rivers and streams. It does really well. I said I've got the rudder attachments and all that with it, but honestly, I never really needed that. It a good paddle stroke will do well enough, but the ability to spin it and to turn it and to put it in eddies, and if you get into some tight stuff, I mean, I've had zero problems with it. I've never gotten into a situation where I felt like I needed a more maneuverable kayak to avoid. So it's done everything I've needed it to do, and definitely looking forward to getting it on some different streams this year. So.
Tell everybody where they can find those videos at. They're pretty
Yeah,
great.
they're exclusively on my YouTube channel. There is a playlist called "Take Me to the River." Last year we did 5 episodes, one of them being a walkthrough. So we did Jack's Fork, we did a local creek here for smallmouth, we did Buffalo National River. The Buffalo River one was the lower wilderness section, which is a 25-mile float, an overnighter, and then we did yeah, that was it. Water was kind of the challenge last year. I was wanting to do more. We're looking at we'll do a different section of the Buffalo this year, and then also we'll do. I'd really like to do Current River this year. That's on the books, and then White River. White River is not as much of a exciting scenic float, but it's definitely something that people are curious about for the area. And I don't know if I'll get up to the Merrimack or not. That was kind of the original plan was doing that one, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up there this year or not. But that's definitely going to be something in the future there. But
If you're going
really
to get
well
it, when
done.
you decide to get up to the Merrimack, let me know. I'm going to have to
Yeah,
join you on that one.
I've heard things about it, and I always try to have guests on it. That'll be something that I'll probably focus on more on future episodes. Is like if we're doing Merrimack, having someone like you on there. If I'm going to Tennessee, seeing if I can hook up with Creek Fishing Adventures, John Dalton there, or Southern Flow, Tennessee, or all of the above. Had James on, the owner of Midwest Kayak Company on the Upper Jacks Fork, and just
Good
kind of
guy.
like, obviously enjoying them with friends is obviously a good thing. I like solo as well, but going on these kind of trips and fishing trips, you kind of get these experiences with other people that you wouldn't get just solo either. So
100%. Yeah. All right, man. I can't wait to see more episodes. It's going to be a good time.
can't wait to do them, man. Appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me. And like I said, check out it's the YouTube channel, The Bearded Paddler, and then I've got them separated on playlists. If you want to watch overviews, I do kayak gear and reviews, and I try to keep them separated as much as possible. But because they're starting to kind of glob up there, so
And very, very good, clean review type videos. Like they're always very to the point, very educational. The audio is always good. Like there's just good quality content there.
I try. Again, my niche is what I call mid to high end kayaks. So, I mean, if someone's looking for box store kayaks, I'm just not the guy, but there are people that do really good jobs with that stuff. Again, my kayaks that I do are not typically people's first kayaks, but if you find out you really like kayak fishing and you're looking at investing a little bit more of little bit more of an investment and you're looking for some good information, that's really what I try to provide. I'm not sponsored by anybody. New Canoe sends me the kayak to do the series on, but again,
Mhm.
that was my choosing. So it wasn't like I just took a phone call and say, sure, I'll do it if you pay me. So, it's again, being not being sponsored allows me to give unbiased reviews. I have my own personal bias, but it's not because someone's paying me to do it, and I'm always going to stay that way too. So,
Awesome, man. Well, all right, everybody. We appreciate you guys tuning in, being in the chat section. That's always awesome. Make sure
yeah.
you go check out Bearded Paddler on YouTube. We'll catch you guys on the next one.